The year was 1920, exactly 100 years ago. The United States was in transition. Many thought they were coming out of the hardest period they would ever know. World War I, the Great War, was over. The League of Nations had begun with the promise of world peace. Our boys were coming home from Europe, and the promise of a strong economy spread hope and optimism across the land. Early in that same year, in the small town of Spanish Fork, Utah, a large group of family, friends, and community members gathered to honor the passing of one of their own. John Moore, a community leader and resident of Spanish Fork for nearly 70 years, would outlive his wife for over 4 decades. His wife, Carolyn Hicks, the child of immigrant parents from Ireland, was born in Nauvoo, Illinois on March 1st, 1844, just 3 months before the martyrdom of Joseph and Hiram Smith. Caroline would
And my mother grew up in Nyssa all of her life. She grew up in a place called the Old Owyhee. And Dad thought she was the prettiest girl in the senior class. And they got married when Mother was barely 19 and Dad would have been, they got married in December, so she wasn't quite 19, and Dad was still 18.
Okay, so tell me now about when you first met that poor farmer boy named Dave Moore.
Okay, I was 14 years old, and I told you before that I was a sickly child, and I had spent a month. I had another boyfriend, by the way, and I spent a month in the hospital in Portland, Oregon. They didn't know for sure what was wrong with me, and they thought I had a brain tumor. And so anyway, I spent a month in the Portland. And he went in and told the bishop that he wanted to go on a mission. And
don't sing and dance and it don't walk. As long as I can have you here with me, I'd much rather be forever in blue jeans. Honey sweet.
So tell me about the United States Southern States Mission.
You know, that was a tremendous opportunity for me to grow up.
I love every single one of my grandkids with all my heart, and I worry about each one of you. And I hope and pray.
So if Max and Fern Moore were here today, what would they tell us? What advice or what would they want us to know?
Let me think about that. My mother would probably, I think my mother would say, I think my mother would say, I am so happy you turned out as good as you did. I think she'd say that to me. Sorry, Mom, that's the way it is. But no, I think Mother would look at our family and say, this is a good family. And you know, when Mother was sick, I found it interesting that the last few years of her sickness, every time she needed a blessing or some help, I was the one that she called.
So the last question is, You have a number of grandchildren, some great grandchildren, more to come hopefully. Some know you really well. Some may never know you because they may come years down the road. What would you want them to know?
Well, I would say this before I answer your question. I think some of the greatest enjoyment that you will experience will come out of your own family.
Okay, I want to ask you about the church. Meaning, not the church as in a church, but the gospel of Jesus Christ. Always, in my life, it's always, I've always felt like it was important to you, so it was important to me. And so where does that foundation come from? And then anything you'd like to say about just the gospel in general.
Well, I think, I want to make sure I don't offend anybody, but I think the gospel of Jesus Christ is absolutely the most important thing in my life.